So you've been progressing in Nightmare 4 and then you hit that wall. And typically this is about 20 to 40k, and it's like, how do I get over that 50k mark? Well, here today we are going to go over everything you need to know in order to hit 50k in Nightmare 4. Compared to a lot of the other boss mechanics, you do not need to bring many things in other than survivability and DPS. There's no debuffs that the boss puts out. There's no mechanics that you have to try and figure out. It is just straight up DPS while you survive the hits that he does do, because the meteoric impact does do a big smack, and scorching spit, like it does do damage, but it's not a crazy amount of damage compared to like Abyss or Titanic Ruins or anything like that. So anyway, there is one hero that is just fantastic, and that is an epic. And that is Hollow. Why is Hollow the queen for Nightmare 4? Because she is able to do two things. Now, one of the biggest things in Nightmare 4, if you're trying to get as much damage out as possible, is to get as many ultimates out of your DPS. If you bring in Hollow and you have her at A1, she is able to restore 1% rage per healing, which means if you build her like a god-awful healer, but just enough that you actually keep the team alive, you are able to absolutely pump rage onto the rest of your team to get their ults out and to cycle, get more, everything else like that. And definitely, if you look at the very top teams, they are not going to be using Hollow. They are using Elis, or I think I've seen some that use an Elowen. So you can absolutely bring them in, but I am very much a proponent of the good old school Hollow strat. Now, alongside Hollow, you are going to need to bring in one other type of unit, and that is going to be an inspiration unit. And that is simply because you want to boost your DPS as much as possible. Now, if you have Dao Chen, she is the easiest. In terms of maximizing inspiration in Guild Boss, I did a test ages and ages and ages and ages ago. And Dolores actually does more like oomphies, mainly because she has this like 40% inspiration, which is absolutely gross. But to be completely honest, the penetration that Dao Chen brings, plus the fact that especially if you have her at A1, you can pretty much get your entire team within her range. You also then don't have to worry about timing up syncing the ults, because obviously Dolores only applies inspiration on her ultimate. So you want to make sure that you are ulting with Dolores and your DPS at the same time. So it is a little bit more finicky with Dolores timings, but yeah, essentially you want to bring in one of those two. And if you have neither of those two, you can bring in any other inspiration unit. I'm trying to think who we have off the top of my head. You've obviously got Rivenhold, who I don't have here. You've got Constance, who is a ground unit. And if you're doing a heavy ground unit placement, you could definitely bring in Constance. She also has a huge inspiration as well, which is very nice. But really, because she's a ground unit, you just want to bring her in for ground heavy comps. And then a couple of other units like Fercy and Orisa also bring in inspiration, but it's very low. And so then they're like what I call like supplementary or additional. Not that inspiration stacks, but for example, if you are using Dolores, they would be able to help outside of Dolores's ult. And then essentially you are going to want to bring in DPS. Now we're going to head over onto the gallery to talk about the best DPS options. But the one thing I will say is that whoever you have on your account is going to be who you're going to use. Like, don't be like, oh, I need this hero in order to progress, because back in the day, it genuinely was Twin Fiend or Pyros, Infernal Blast with Pierces, maybe Nightmare. Like, there was so few options, and nowadays we have so many great options. And what you are looking for is essentially high damage single target nukers. Ingrid, obviously in her single target mode. Alora is single target. She doesn't hit very hard. Kigiri, amazing. Wukong, amazing. Neja, really good. If you put him in a Shattered Hill, he is fantastic. Lucius is pretty solid. Talon is solid. Northerners, I still don't think are a faction that I would bring in. They don't really have many what I'd call single target nukers. I'm sure someone out there has made a Northern 50k team, but maybe don't. Maybe don't. Nightmare is fantastic. And Nightmare is fantastic for a couple of reasons. Obviously, Wrath, you get him already Volker you get already as part of the quest. So that's 2 of them. Salazar you can get as a fusion. And honestly, even though Salazar is not like amazing, he is pretty solid in Nightmare 4. He has a bleed on him. It's great. Nowadays, with the new beginner thing, you can pick up a Wukong straight away. So that's essentially your 4 Nightmare fighters. They've also got some pretty solid epics. Daimos being an example. Twyla is fantastic. Lust is limited, but she was really good. Yuri's good. Arrogance is good. Razin is so good. Like, genuinely pretty awesome damage from him. We're not going to talk about Kineza, even though she is technically viable. Obviously Rygar, obviously Astral. Yeah, Sergey. There are a lot of options in the Nightmare faction. Basically, if you got Nightmare, you can bring them in. Especially the other thing to say is that if you use your Lord 19 cards to pick up a Torador, but his Lord faction bonus for Nightmare is still absolutely fantastic. So yeah, Nightmare faction, lots of fantastic options. Curse Cult, again, is interesting. It's a faction I wouldn't necessarily bring in to this. I think with the Curse Cult, again, if you need to use them, but they're not necessarily ones that are designed for single target damage. You know, Valise hits hard, Ezrith hits hard, but they're all designed to do AoE rather than single target. And so, yeah, it's not a faction that I would primarily try and bring in. Infernal is the OG Nightmare 4 comp with the Pyros. You can get him when he's A3, it really helps. And then obviously Twin Fiend, the grotesque fiend himself, at A1. The reason that they're really good is they bring the vulnerabilities. And that's another thing to say, if you can bring in DPS that has like a debuff that helps boost your damage, win. But even if you aren't, you know, bringing them, Solkadin's fantastic. As we said, Nocturne, Zilla2 was the OG queen of Nightmare 4. And genuinely, she still will carry you in that. I think Zilla2 is one of those heroes that has been completely power crept in the late game to end game. Like, just absolutely does not have a place. But if you get her, like, week 1 of your account, she can carry you so hard through so much content because of what she's able to do, and especially in Guild Boss. So I still really like her. Setram, same. Huge shield break that he's able to do, which is going to super help. Like, he himself can pretty much solo the shield, and then you can, like, boost for DPS. So, yeah, he's fantastic. Hex, what is there more to say? Hex is a dream. Hex is fantastic. Managed to get lucky with his exclusive, you are laughing. Micah is a fusion who I would not fuse. It is shield break if you need that, but to be honest, with how good DPS has gotten, I don't think you need shield break in the same way that you need shield break in Abyss. The resources that you have to invest into getting Micah, like, the only reason I can think that you would go for Micah is if you had the worst luck in the world and never built or never pulled a single target unit DPS. Like, it's bad. It's bad. Finish is great. Janice, pretty absolutely solid. She's really cool. Violetta, Gretchen, legend. Gushi, smacks. Absolutely, this guy absolutely smacks. He's so much fun in Nightmare 4. So yeah, basically there is a lot of very, very good options. You'll see on my account, I don't have a shield break. Oh no, I do have a shield break. That is a lie. I do have a shield break. I just realized, because speaking of the star piercers, I have Vaughn. And Vaughn is fantastic. He's part of the poison squad, but he just also has a little shield break and he's great fun. Then obviously Araka, Ivar, both solid. Calypso's okay. Silas, oh my word. Okay, I will hear no hate on Silas. I am a Silas stan, and genuinely he's so good. He has to be bonded though. You have to get his partner Vienna, but then he basically doubles his damage. It is disgusting how easy hitting 50k is with a bonded Silas. And a Piercer squad. Hex is fantastic. Numera is fantastic. Obviously, you're not getting Lady A that early, but she would be in there. Vaughn, Yuri, Talon, Erlang. I guess you could bring in Ruin Hollow. You could even do Dracula. I wouldn't necessarily. It'd be hard to keep him live. But Pierces are very, very solid for your team. And then Esoteric, I think with Esoteric, really, you're only looking at the, like, nastier squad. Bringing in a Numera, maybe. Some people like Seraphina, but I dislike very, very, very much. But some people do, so we don't talk about it. Nezha, like we've already talked about. And then again, Chaotic. Again, lots of options. Sargak, Valeria, Ardia, Sergi, Valderon, Lubu, Sithra. All very, very good. And then Arbiters. Now, the reason I want to talk about Arbiters is because of this amazing little epic. If you are progressing and you manage to get Alicia, she is so worth building. So well worth building. Because of the sheer amount of damage she's able to do for progressing in Guild Boss. She can be their own lord. She doesn't need to be paired with another lord. Obviously, if you got lucky enough to bring in another lord, I'd bring her as like a second. But I'll show you the DPS that she is able to do. It is amazing how good a hero she is. And I think she's one of those very underrated heroes in terms of what she can do for progression. Is she going to be a meta hero? Absolutely not. Is she going to probably be potentially the reason that you get 50k? Yeah, genuinely. She's awesome. She does need to be a lord, though, because you got to spam that lightning button and get the extra boom booms. And then if you have an unnameable, I don't think either of them are very good as damage, but the little boosts that they bring being an unnameable to your team can be very nice as well. So essentially, those are the options. The DPS options. And you want to make sure that you bring in whatever DPS you're running under a faction lord. Now, here's the interesting thing when you are talking about faction lords. Like I said, if let's say we were using Watchguard and we have Ein, who obviously is 7-day login and he is an epic, so he's a bit more straightforward. And let's say we're doing Lucius and Nezha and Kigiri and whatever. You don't necessarily have to use your lord as DPS, because remember, you can only bring in 8 heroes onto the board. And there is a really good thing that you can do with your Lord heroes, which is put them in a wing set. Wings, trash wings, look, they can literally be, these are terrible stats. Like, they are just your flat stat. I've talked about trash wings before. They are just great. And essentially, you can have your 2 Lord heroes not be deployed and just be there to put wings onto your DPS. So that's already going to be 2 DPS units that are going to get a really good boost. Now, obviously, if your Hollow can go into Invig or Wings and you can get the stats, that's fantastic. But if not, you don't have to worry about it because you've got the Lords in them, right? And also, if you're using a Lord, you could literally just bring in, I don't know, Scorch. Or like, I don't know, you can bring in anyone. You just close your eyes and go, okay, I'm bringing that one in. With the wings on them, right? So there's Hollow, and then obviously, again, your inspiration units. So essentially, you're going to be able to cover 4 DPS in wings and and inspiration. Wings or Invig gear, which then puts the boosties. And I will say, whenever I've done takeovers on Nightmare 4 50k, it's definitely one of those things that when a team gets to that point, I'll be like, look, you are hitting 35k. This is great. Get some Invig on these units and you will hit 50k. It makes such an important difference. Now, if we're talking about other things that are going to boost your damage, there are 2 other things that we're going to talk about. First off, we have mentioned it, and that is debuffs. But one thing I will say, just as like really, again, underrated, is how much bringing in vulnerabilities can make. Someone like Amari, who puts out a 20% vulnerability constantly, you're like, but she's taking the slot of a DPS. Your top dealing damage dealers getting this debuff, absolutely worth not bringing in like a bad DPS. Does that make sense? And obviously, this is where you experiment and this is where you test to see if bringing in a unit that puts out constant vulnerabilities does more damage overall with your team than using that slot for DPS. You're picking up what I'm putting down type thing. Obviously, if you don't have Mari, for whatever reason, you managed to sell her. Don't know why you would. Another really good option, epic-wise, is an Aeon. She's also able to do it in the fact that her basic attacks do it as well. And then I'm trying to think who, I mean, there are certain heroes that will put it out within it. So, for example, Valise has got this magic resistance reduction. Now, remember, there are several different debuffs. There is magic resistance reduction and then defense reduction stack with magic and physical vulnerability. So you could technically have all 4 debuffs up if you had the heroes to do that, and then you would be absolutely flying with stuff. And then also bleed is another debuff that mainly comes on fighters. And the interesting thing about bleed, where is it? Here, is that it deals 1% targets max HP per second, increases their physical damage taken by 10%. So essentially, if you have a bleed up and you have other things hitting it, the other units are also going to like do that 10% extra physical damage, which is nice. Very nice, very nice, very nice. And then finally, there is the pièce de résistance of Nightmare 4, and that is something called Ult Cycling. And Ult Cycling is a very simple concept where basically you are going to bring in 2 or 3 of the following heroes, and that is Laurel, Volker, and Leia. And essentially you can bring in 2 of these or 3 of these, but you are going to cycle them, so pick them up and put them down throughout the fight to rage boost your team. Now, obviously, Laurel is the main one for this, and that is because when she dies, aka gets picked up, the allies immediately surrounding her get 50% rage regen. So essentially, she just like pops ults and is fantastic. Leia is able to do something similar in the fact that when she ults, afterwards she applies this rage regen to like boost. So again, she is able to do a huge rage regen boost to your team. And then Volker is in there not because she has any rage capabilities herself, but when you get her A1, which is at day 35 if you keep on top of Tide, you are able to reduce the allies' redeployment time by 25%, which means you are then able to cycle your Laurel and your Leia faster. Now, for your Leia, there is a very particular artifact that you want to put on her, and that is going to be the Tumultuous Horn, which basically means that when you put her down for the first time, she is going to ult immediately. Now, Hollow's build, I do have a video which I will link on basically how to build her. But like I said, you basically just want to build her as a really bad healer. So you're going to go HP bonus with speed and rage regen. If you can get it so that she has +0 attack, fantastic. But then you have to make her go like super far. Like it's a balance. It's a balance. It's a balance. And again, you can bring in the Golden Scarab if you need to, but you know, it's, yeah. Just make sure you're over that 134% rage. Yeah, she's got like no attack, but she's very nice and speedy. So that should work. Then your inspiration unit, all you want to do is get them to be attacked. Now, here's the thing. Here's the thing that I've seen. Your inspiration unit, it is way more important that you have them with as much attack as possible than it is that you have them in Invig or Wings. Invig and Wings on your inspiration unit is like, mwah, chef's kiss, fabulous. We love it. But it is way more important that you have them in with like super high attack. So essentially what you want to do is just put attack bonus with flat attack. And then if it's Dolores, you want to bring in rage regen. And if it's Dao Chen, you want to make sure they have speed. And then whatever that first piece is, you're going to take pretty much. Obviously, if it is, if you are able to put them in Invig, it's great. But don't worry about it. Now, obviously, Dolores does have her own exclusive, which is really important because she's got this thing in her kit where she has a chance to get like rage at the end of her ult, which then would make her cycle more. So if you're able to get her into her amulet, you're going to be able to get her to essentially constantly ult a lot more. So we are actually going to do that. Ideally, Warlord or Calamity. You just want super high attack like that, but that's a little bit ridiculous. We'll do that one. We'll do that one. So plus 9,000. Yeah, anything over, I would say anything over 10,000 is good. You're getting there. And then here's the thing. If you have a maxed out Golden Scarab, use that. If you do not have a maxed out Golden Scarab, the best artifact you can put on your inspiration units is a Keen Wisdom, and that is because it increases 16% attack. If you have a Dao Chen, use a Keen Wisdom unless you're using her exclusive artifact. I've seen people put her in other stuff, and it's like, you're not going to be raging with her. Like, the only reason you put Dolores in a Golden Scarab is because you're trading off like the constant ulting with the inspiration versus the level of attack that you get from it. So please, please, please use Keen Wisdom. Laurel just needs to be in wings. If you've got trash wings, that's fantastic. Volker, but in particular, can either be in DPS if you need the extra DPS, or you can put her in wings if you need her to be in wings. So I'm just going to chuck her in DPS because I can. And then this is another way to boost your damage. Even with a level 10 artifact, we will give him a level 13 artifact. And yes, it's very fancy. If you have some of these like itty bitty baby augmentations, just use them, just chuck him. I have an artifacts guide on which artifacts are worth investing in. So as long as you're putting it on that, you're fine. Just go have fun, chuck them on, no problems there. Now, obviously there is the escape trick hatch. Escape key trick, my goodness. If you are on PC, where basically you press the escape key, put down your unit, and it saves you some time. Because the main thing that you want to do if you're trying to again, max out your score is get all your heroes down before the first timer comes up. Now, in terms of placement of heroes, you're going to basically be putting stuff here. Hollow will always go in this spot. This is her spot. Now, yes, you can absolutely do it on this. If you want to be on this side placement, just mirror it. It's absolutely fine. But that's her spot there. And then you're going to have your inspiration unit goes here. She'll cover all your peeps type thing. And obviously, if you have Dao Chen, it gets a bit bigger. So that can be there. And then this spot here is going to be your ult cycling spot. Now, you can absolutely swap it round where you have your Dolores here and you have your Laurel here, because essentially it's going to be whoever is around you. But of course, we only have the one ground unit that we really care about, which is going to be Alicia, which is why here we can make sure that our DPS is here. And a fun fact, if you're using Araka as a Lord, having your marksman down here means that they basically get a boost for however many tiles away they are from whatever it is they're hitting. So having them down here, very, very nice indeed. And try and alternate basically one DPS with a unit that has Invigor wings on, and vice versa. And then essentially so version 1, Leia goes down first, and then you're going to ult with everybody. Boom, boom, boom. Ult there, ult with that, ult with Leia. And you're going to do 2 Leias to 1 Laurel. So we're going to let Leia stay down on the board. Once you've done the second ult with your Leia, you are going to pick her up, put down your Laurel, immediately pick up your Laurel, and then put down your Volker and ult again. If you are struggling on particular shields, you want to save your ults for when the shield comes up. That's just like a basic of things. But with this, we are trying to just basically fly through as much as possible. Now, when you get to about 3 seconds left, which is here, we are going to pick up our Volker. We are going to put down our Laurel. And then we're going to... we're at 92%. So this is, again, where your individual account, your individual thing, happens where it'll be like, do I wait for the ult and then pick up Laurel, or do I cycle thing? But we're gonna wait. So we're gonna do Silas, spam click Dolores, and then pick up Laurel immediately. Put down Leia, ult with Alicia, ult with Leia. Get that boost. And the other thing Leia does is when people are ulting and she ults, she gives them a damage boost as well, which is really, really nice. And then we should just be able to, and you can just hit auto ult if you want, or hit auto ult with some of them or not others. Like that is, again, completely up to you. And then it's the same thing. We're going to do 2 Leia ults to 1 Laurel ult. Put down our Laurel again. Ideally, again, we will ult with Silas and Gucci. And then pick up Laurel and put down Volker. And that's basically it. Or you could put down the Lord if you had, you know, or whatever the other unit is. But essentially you are cycling those 2. I'm just going to put it on auto ults because it really doesn't matter at this point. Everything is groovy. And you should be able to get 1 last ult in, but this time you want to do it the other way around. No, same way round, basically. You put down Laurel, and then Leia. And you should basically just sneak out the last little bumps of damage. And genuinely, when you are getting started, any bit of damage, anything you can sneak out will help. If you don't have a Leia, it's absolutely fine. You can still do this with just Volker Laurel, which I think is slightly more realistic for a lot of people. So these guys are gonna be popping off, and we'll put Dao Chen in there as well, so that it is just slightly thing. Also, don't worry if your Dao Chen isn't in range. Like if Dao Chen's off action, it's nice, but it's not necessary. Swap them over, and then basically you wanna, if you can, with the first Laurel ult, you want to get the ults off first. So yeah, so that is there. And then, yeah, you're going to basically just ult every time Laurel comes back on. You're going to do that. And that is how you ult cycle, basically. And this is definitely the simplest ult cycle that you can do, is just with Volker and Laurel, because you then don't need to have a Leia. And then, yeah, you just do that. Now, obviously, Araka's not really going to be doing anything, but if you can get her in like an attack-based invig, that would be the dream. It'd be amazing. And yeah, you just want to keep everyone going. And I would say this, if you are ult cycling, it's about 3 seconds I would pick up, and then you'll be ready to go have a look. We'll wait for Silas. Boom, boom. Pick it up, and then put down Volker. And you should be able to get like quite a few of these like cycles going, which is really nice actually. And obviously if you're doing this with Dolores, you want to really be focused on her more than your DPS, because obviously getting her inspiration out as much as possible is kind of the important thing, essentially. But yeah, that is how you ult cycle. That is how you do Nightmare 4. And very quickly, I want to just show you my light account. Obviously, this account is 123 days, 124 days now. I did Nightmare 4 ages ago, like genuinely ages ago, and I cannot find the footage of when I did it, and I'm really annoyed. But essentially, this is what I mean by working with what you've got. So obviously the classic Silas Hex Vaughn, or Silas and Hex essentially. I've got my Dao Chen. I'm bringing in Nezha. I'm not allowed to use Hollow, so I'm bringing in Elowen for the Rage regen. I'm bringing Mari for the debuffs, and then Rivenhold for inspiration as well. Because one of the things to note again about inspiration is it is one of those things where the biggest thing takes effect. So Dao Chen will be putting out lovely penetration, but her actual inspiration is lower than Rivenhold's. So I get to have the bigger inspiration of Rivenhold with the penetration from Dao Chen, and it makes a lovely thing. So if we look here, I've got Rivenhold in this middle position. to ult. I have both of my DPS down the bottom because, again, that Araka bonus means that they will ult further, more damage further away. Mari's up there for the debuffs. Like, she's just, as long as she's hitting every 3 seconds, she's doing great. I did used to have, like I said, I used Alicia up to the point where I got a Raka essentially and switched it over because, yeah, she was great. And then, yeah, got my Dao-Chen, got my Vaughn. Elowen is there doing her passive stuff. Hex is doing all the great damage. Silas is struggling. Why is Silas struggling? I don't know why Silas is struggling. He's fine. No, he's not. He's not struggling. He's fine. Neja hits like a truck. I'm just going to say, you want to talk about cheat codes? Neja, I think, is the hardest carry you can get on a progressive account. Like, as a progressive, he does everything. AoE, boss, air, ground, everything. Like, genuinely, if I had to start the game again and I could only have one legendary, it would be Neja. it would be Neja. Neja, Dao-Chen, Kigiri. I think I could clear pretty much everything with that combo. But yeah, that is my thing. It got the 52, which is like, yay. So very, very happy.
So like I said, I can't find the original 50k clear footage for this, so I've rebuilt it as close as I reasonably can, and actually it does get a very similar score, so I'm very happy to share the gear. Now, I will say one thing, it is over-inviged in the fact that we have more invig units than we need on the field, so I think someone was not in invig. I just can't work out who, but like I said, the best thing to do is to make sure your inspiration has got as much attack as possible, so that would be where that is. As you can see, the score is very similar at 52,000. And we're going to look at the gear because that really is what makes it relatable and also can give you an idea of what stats you need to be looking for. But obviously certain things are going to be different depending on your own account. Now, first up, we have Araka. She's just in a trash wings. Definitely very simple, very easy. Doesn't need her exclusive that's on there, but anyway. And then it is Silas. He is in Infernal Roar with a maxed out Spirit Siphon. You're looking at over about 300% crit damage, over 15,000 attack, and trying to get then speed and crit rate as high as possible. We are then looking at Hex. He is doing the biggest damage because I did get lucky and get his exclusive artifact. He's in Soulbound Arcana, all attack bonus, again looking for that high crit damage as well as max crit rate and over 15k attack. I think that's a sort of very similar thing across the board that you'll notice. Even with Fawn, we've got him over 17,000. He's in a Cataclysm set. It is a speed main because I don't actually have a very good Cataclysm set yet on this account. But yeah, you can see the crit damage is remarkably low because of that. But he's putting out the poisons, it's fine. Now, Mari is in Invig. The only thing we need her to do is to survive and put out her debuffs. So it's just HP based. Ayn is in another Wings. Neja is in Soulbound Arcana with a Shattered Hilt. If you're definitely using him without his exclusive in boss content, bring in the Shattered Hilt. And again, trying to get close to those stats with the 300% crit damage. But his attacks are very high because he's got a high base attack. Now, Dao-Chen is an all attack Invig with a maxed out Keen Wisdom. You really want that over, I'd say, 11k, and then Elowen is just in Wings for survivability. Her build's quite easy because you're just making sure that she heals enough to keep everyone going, and then she's in a maxed out orb because she can be, essentially. And then finally we have Rivenhold, who is also in attack Invig. Again, that should have been attack, the middle one, for more oomphies, but yeah, that's what I'm saying by like I definitely am over inviged for this team, but that's absolutely fine. And yeah, those are the stats that you're essentially looking at. 100% crit rate, over 15k attack, over 300% crit damage on your DPS, and then obviously survivability and over 10k for your inspiration units. I hope that helps show a realistic gear that you can try to work towards for your own team.
So yeah, that is going to wrap up my guide for Nightmare 4. Do let me know in the comments below who your MVP was, because I think one of the amazing thing is with all the options we now have available is that there are so many ways to hit that score now. But yeah, anyway, that is all from me. Do like and subscribe if you haven't already. I look forward to seeing you in the next video and the next live stream. So until then, take care and bye for now.